They were there. They fed you, clothed you, maybe even said I love you sometimes. But something still felt off. You grew up feeling like you were too much and never enough at the same time. You learned to shrink yourself, to manage their emotions before your own, to be the good one. Noel, England, Giselle, and ye, the quiet one, the one who never caused problems. And for years, you thought that was just you. It wasn't. What you experienced had a name, and understanding it might be the most important thing you do this year. Most people think bad parenting looks like obvious abuse, yelling, hitting, guys on, abandonment. Abandonment? But some of the deepest wounds come from parents who were physically present and emotionally completely absent. Parents who never hit you, but made you feel invisible. Parents who never left, but never really saw you either. Psychologists call this emotional immaturity, and it's far more common than anyone talks about. Today, we're going to walk through the signs, not to blame your parents, not to reopen old wounds for no reason, but because you cannot heal what you cannot name. And some of you watching this have been carrying something heavy for a very long time without knowing what it was. So let's name it together. Sign 1. Dive P. Nicht how. Your feelings were treated as inconvenient. You came home crying once. Maybe you were bullied at school. Maybe a friend said something that crushed you. And instead of being held, instead of someone sitting down and asking what happened, you were met with impatience. Stop crying, you're too sensitive. It's not a big deal. So you learned. You learned that your emotions were a burden. That feeling things deeply was a character flaw. That the safest thing to do was to feel nothing, or at least to feel it alone, quietly, where no one had to deal with it. And now, as an adult, you don't know how to ask for comfort. You don't know how to tell someone you're hurting without immediately apologizing for it. You minimize your own pain before anyone else gets the chance to. Because somewhere deep down, you still believe your feelings are too much. They weren't too much. They were just met with too little. Sign 2. Aoi on dest's own. You became the emotional caretaker in your own family. This one is subtle. It doesn't look like trauma from the outside. It looks like a responsible kid. A mature kid. The kid adults always said was so grown up for their age. But here's what was actually happening. You were reading the room before you even knew what that meant. You could feel when a parent was in a bad mood, the moment they walked through the door. You adjusted your behavior, your tone, your entire presence to manage their emotional state. You became a small, highly sensitive emotional radar, scanning for danger, trying to keep the peace. That's not maturity. That's a child doing the job of a therapist for the adults who were supposed to protect them. And now? Now, you do it with everyone. Your friends, your partner, your coworkers. You feel responsible for how other people feel. When someone is upset, your first instinct is not to ask if they're okay, it's to figure out what you did wrong. You people please not because you're kind, but because somewhere in your nervous system, peace still feels like something you have to earn. Sign 3. Love felt conditional. Not in an obvious way. Nobody handed you a list of rules. But you felt it. You felt that when you performed well, good grades, good behavior, no problems. There was warmth. There was approval. There was something that felt like love. And when you failed, when you were difficult, or loud, or sad, or just human, that warmth disappeared. Not always through punishment. Sometimes just through silence. through distance, through a look that made you feel like you had done something unforgivable, simply by existing imperfectly. So you spent your childhood and then your entire adult life trying to be good enough to deserve love, trying to perform your way into being worthy. And you became an expert at achieving things, at helping people, at being useful, because deep down, you still believe that love has to be earned. That if you stop performing, if you stop being needed, people will leave. That belief is exhausting, and it is not the truth, but it was the truth of your childhood home. Son, 4. Teshi. Your parents made everything about themselves. You had a school play, a big game, a moment that mattered to you. And somehow, by the end of the conversation, it became about them, their stress, their sacrifices, how hard they worked, how much they gave up. Emotionally immature parents have a limited capacity to hold space for someone else's experience, including their own child's. Not because they don't love you, but because they were never taught how. They were likely raised the same way. They came to parenthood with their own unprocessed wounds, their own emotional blind spots, their own unmet needs, and children, who needed so much, simply overwhelmed them. So they did what emotionally immature people do. They made it about themselves. They competed with your pain. They dismissed your wins. They turned your milestones into conversations about their feelings. And you learned to stop sharing. You learned that your inner world was yours alone, that bringing it to someone else only led to disappointment. That's why today you have trouble being vulnerable. Not because you don't want connection, you crave it more than almost anything, but because every time you tried to open up as a child, the door closed in your face. Sign 5. Easy. There was no repair after conflict. Every family fights. That's not the problem. The problem is what happens after. In healthy families, rupture is followed by repair. A parent loses their temper and then comes back, sits down. You I'm seeing. Says, I'm sorry I yelled. That wasn't okay. The child learns that conflict doesn't mean the end of love. That relationships can survive hard moments. That it's safe to disagree, to feel, to make mistakes because someone will come back and make it right. In emotionally immature families, there is no repair. The storm passes and everyone pretends it never happened. Or worse, the parent who caused harm somehow becomes the victim. You end up apologizing to them. You end up comforting them. The cycle flips, and once again, you are the one managing their emotional reality instead of your own. So you grew up terrified of conflict, because conflict, for you, never resolved. It just stopped until the next time. You learned to avoid it at all costs, to swallow your anger, to smile through situations that deserved honest conversation. Because peace, even fake peace, felt safer than the alternative. Here's what I want you to understand. None of this means your parents were monsters. Emotional immaturity is not the same as malice. Most emotionally immature parents genuinely love their children. They just don't have the tools to show it in the way a child needs. They are, in many ways, still children themselves, emotionally frozen, at a stage they never moved past. But here is what is also true. The wound is real. The adaptations you made to survive the people-pleasing, the self-silencing, the hypervigilance, the difficulty receiving love, those are real. They made sense then. They were survival strategies. But they don't serve you anymore. And the fact that your parents did their best does not mean their best was enough. Both of those things can be true at the same time. The work in there is work, is learning to reparent yourself, to give yourself the things that weren't given to you, to sit with your own emotions instead of running from them, to stop shrinking to make others comfortable, to believe, slowly, imperfectly, that you are allowed to take up space, that your needs matter, that you don't have to earn love by being useful or painless or endlessly agreeable. You were a child who needed more than you received. That child deserved better. And the adult, you are now the one watching this, the one who has carried all of this quietly for so long, deserves better too. This is where healing starts. Not with forgiveness, not with confrontation, but with understanding. Understanding, with finally being able to say, this happened to me. It shaped me. And I am not broken. I am just someone who learned the wrong things about love in the most important classroom of my life. You can unlearn them. It takes time. It takes honesty. And sometimes it takes someone simply naming what you went through. So you know you are not imagining it. You were never imagining it. If something in this video felt personal, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm doing that in your best. And if you want to go deeper, the next video is already waiting for you.